Hello, everybody. Happy Monday to you. I hope you're having an absolutely delicious day. I know that I am. And I'm even better off today because one of my favorite people in the entire world is in the Zoom booth with me today. Michele Jarvis Whonnocott is with me. She is a global animal communicator, a published author, a public speaker, a pet loss grief specialist, and she's also one of my favorite friends in the whole world. Welcome to the program, Michele. I am so happy you're here. How are you, my friend?
I'm in this incredible place of love right now, which wasn't the case, like 2 weeks ago. I was in a place of empty. But,
Yeah.
I'm in this place right now because all things shift, right? So
Yes.
I'm in this place right now of just love and gratitude for who we get to show up as each and every day in this world and who I get to show up as.
You know, I know you've been on the program several times in the
Yeah.
past. I've been on yours, you've been on mine. We've shared a few things over the years. But for our friends who listen to the program who may not remember or haven't heard you for a while, would you mind reminding people who you are and what you do and why you do it?
Absolutely. Well, I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, which means that I can see, hear, and feel information that isn't obvious to everybody. It comes through people and it comes through animals. And I've chosen to work with animals as my gift of service back to life because of the gift that I have, right? And I just wrote this little piece that I like to share with you that will give people a little bit more introspective on what it feels like to do this and to hold space. And everybody, we all have these roles and these paths, and we're all created for these purposes in life. And to be able to dig through the muck, right? To dig through the muck of you and human life and depressions and anxieties and all of the things that we have to get through in order to clear our path enough to be of service to whatever that is we're supposed to be of service of, has me here today in this moment. And I'd like to read this piece with everybody. So I'd like it to reflect back to the people out there who have passions that might not make sense to everybody around them, right? So I'm sitting here waiting to be on a radio show with Kathy Trupp Holmes. And as I look around, I recognize that I'm surrounded by pictures of all of my animals and that this is my life, that animals are my whole life and they're why I exist. They're why I create a better me every single day in order to be of service to animals and to pay attention to their lessons and messages so I can be a voice for what they want and need their people to know. All that I am and all that I've been and all I will ever be is a voice for animals. It's my full-time job. It's what I eat, sleep, and breathe. It's who I am. I identify as Michele Jarvis Whonnocott, a voice for animals. I am animal consciousness in human form. And I recognize that being a human is hard, but it's not as hard as being an animal in a human world.
Mm.
So together, us humans, us people, us animal lovers can make a better world for animals. And all we have to do is learn how to listen. And if anything we know to be true is life gets a lot better when we listen.
I just want to hold that space for a moment because it's so true. That listening piece, so often we are in the rush of things, trying to, listen to something quickly so we can move on with our thought or our answer or whatever it is. It's boom, 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 you know. But animals don't have that same urgency that we have in the business of living. Their business of living is to just be in the moment at every
Mhm.
single second that they can.
Mhm.
You used to really be known as the dog whisperer, the dog psychic for a
Yeah,
long,
the
long
dog psychic.
time.
Yeah.
But, over the years, you've always been with various other animals, and spoken to them in the same way. It's been a while since we've been together. I know the last time we were together, we were talking about your book, I Give You Permission to Grieve, which was, for me, a lifesaver book. I loved it when, as you may recall, of course, I lost my girls a few years ago now. And, we kept talking about, are you going to write a second book? And you
Mm,
did. You did.
I did.
So let's talk about that journey, because during the journey that you were writing that second book, which is called Grieving Gracefully, you
Mhm.
also, you were going through a whole lot of stuff, including the loss of a couple of your own pets.
3
Three.
in a
Yeah.
row.
In a row.
2 at the
Bang,
same
bang, bang.
day. Yeah.
Two in the same day.
Mhm.
Oh, I didn't realize two in the same day.
Yeah, it was really sacred. It was very sacred. Because
Yeah.
we can create these sacred experiences. It doesn't have to be trauma and loss. It could and should be a ceremony and grace.
Hmm. Absolutely.
We just don't know that. We're not conditioned to that. We're conditioned that it's pain and loss and what do I do? What do I do?
Hmm.
Well, you stop, drop, and roll, and you create an absolute beautiful experience for you and your animal, because there's a chance that we've done this multiple lifetimes before, if not hundreds or thousands, if past lifetimes exist. And this just is the time in our lives for all of the reasons to be able to just say thank you. Like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for showing up in my life, you little god or goddess, and putting up with all my stuff. And what I hear from people, this, for help getting me through all of these things, all of these chapters and pieces in my life. Thank you for helping me get through that. And I'm going to hold you up high to wherever it is that you for beings go, and I'm going to march you on over to the other side with ceremony and grace and dignity and acceptance, and go through all of the natural grieving and patterns and paths that I need to go to bring healing awareness
Yeah.
to what I need to heal as well. Like, it's
Yeah.
just such a cool journey, and we don't look at our animals passing as a cool journey.
No, I can tell you we do not. Although, in fairness, I will say that in my experience, they have been beautiful journeys, because I've had the pleasure, with really only the exception of Kevin. And, Kevin was, she was in the car with me. If you remember, she passed away at the
Yes.
campsite when I was camping, and was in the car at the time. It was the only time that I didn't feel like I was with her, like the dogs, to celebrate them as they go over. And of course, there's been many ceremonies since, and lots of love since, and all of that.
Perfect.
But it's interesting to me how some people, they really, the true grief actually happens when they lose an animal. It's
Yeah.
almost as if every other thing that they may have been grieving about gets really connected into one moment.
You are right. You're the first person that's ever put that all together. Absolutely right. It's our core wounds. It's an opportunity to, you just can't hide from it. You can't run from it. And the relationship with your pet is so personal, and it's so personal because we're so in depth in it, or we weren't, and now we're mad at ourselves and have all this guilt, anger, regret, and shame and blame, which I hear from people every day in the work I do, because I should have, I could have, I would have, well, they're the teachers, we're the students.
Hmm.
So recognizing that stuff, honoring it, again, thanking the animal for bringing it to light, and then not, like, doing things different next time, because animal lovers should always have animals. We
Yes.
should. There's billions of animals out in the world that need to be with us,
Yeah.
right? They're just waiting for us. So this thing, as well as when people close the door, I'm never gonna go through that grief experience. Again, I'm never gonna go through that loss. Just, I just encourage you to just leave the door open, because they come back.
Yeah.
They come back. A lot of them reincarnate. A lot of them, and I've talked to thousands of people about this, so it's not a crazy thing out there in the world. A lot of people will tell me, oh, I knew it. I knew it was Kevin when she came back in. Like, I knew it. I knew it
Yeah.
was the same dog. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
and it took 3 years or 4 years or 4 days, or it took 10 years, but people know. So keeping a relationship with them when they're on the other side too, after they've passed, is a really beautiful thing to do. Because what I've learned is it's this cord of love, this energy of love. If you imagine a cord going from your chest to their chest, that helps them find us again. And it helps us recognize them when they come back in. If we just bury ourselves in grief and I'm never, and You know, like it's just not fair to yourself or to this divine soul that is supposed to be coming in and working with you over and over in this lifetime. So we're not alone.
I call it the heart leash,
Oh, I
right? It's
love
the heart leash.
the
And
heart leaf.
I feel my girls around me all the time, whether I'm camping, whether I'm laying down. There's times that I feel Kevin laying across my neck. If I'm particularly sad about something, I can feel her just laying across my neck, sort of reaching over under my jaw. It's a strange kind of thing. I feel her, not as often as I did with Bobby Wilson when she first passed away. But
Mm-hmm.
even like, I mean, even my other dogs over time, they just cut, you're right. They do, there's something around them that they're never really gone. And we are energy. I mean, that to me
Yeah.
just makes perfect sense. We're energy. And
Mhm.
so, of course, that energy has not left. It's just transformed into
Yeah.
something
And they
different.
recognize that in science now. Like they talk about it all the time in these structured science realities. Like, it's become a comfortable consciousness to be able to work with, play with, and practice until you get good at it and pretty much know it to be true. Like I say, pretty much, because I give room for skepticism, and I give room for, well, maybe, like I sit on both fences with people. And so I look at it as if this were true, let's play here, let's practice here, let's see what this looks like. And then the animals show you. They show you. People have experiences with people all of the time. I mean, we see all these world famous psychics all over the world bringing people in, right? We
Yeah.
see all these
What's the
wonderful.
difference?
There's
Exactly.
zero difference.
Yes, I agree.
Zero. Because
Yeah.
animals are
It's
higher evolved than people. So they're easier to access than our people on the other side. No offense, everybody.
we always have to keep that there.
You do a good job, a very good job.
And we're very grateful for you. Thank you for,
Oh,
and you know
yeah.
what? I know it to be true because I'm constantly having conversations with people I love who've been gone for a very long time. So
Oh, good for
it's
you.
very, very easy for me to
Yeah.
buy into so much of this kind of stuff. There are a few pieces I'm not so sure about, to be honest with you. But the good news is like you said, there's room for a little bit of skepticism. But
Absolutely.
the other side of it is grief also manifestates in so many different ways too. And if you are grieving, talking to a counselor isn't going to help you necessarily. It might, but it may. But
It's
if
a
you're
part.
talking about your
Yeah.
creature, like your baby,
Mhm.
talking to somebody that it can help you move through that grief from an animal communicator perspective,
Yeah.
it genuinely resonates in a deeper way. I personally feel it did for me, right? I don't know how it relates to everyone, of course, but
Yeah. Well, with the psychic intuitive piece, you're able to pick up those like really cool small nuances that you're like, there's no way she could have known that.
that's
Right?
right.
These deeply personal things in the relationship, they're like, how did like what? No, that person can't know that. They can't. There's no way. It's not on Instagram. It's not on social
Nope.
media. It's nowhere. So when we dig into these places, when you're going through this loss of your animals, this loss, the word loss, I call it gain because we have gained so much having
Mm,
these relationships with our animals, but I do understand that expression and feeling of the word loss. I understand it. It's a hole. There's something missing. There's just this irreplaceable space because our animals are generally an extension of ourselves. And they're our lifestyle. They're a part of our lifestyle. They're a part of, no matter if your animals are, if you're living with them nine to nine every day, or whether you are coming home from work at 7 o'clock at night and having this interaction with your animal for an hour or 15 minutes, like there's such a intricate personal part of people's lives. And their unconditional love reflects back through their eyes when they look at us. So for these moments when we look at our animals, we get to see how loved we really are. And when
mhm.
that's gone for people, you're left kind of dog paddling, if not drowning for a lot of people. You know, a lot of people don't want to live anymore. They want to be, I hear it all the time. I just rather be on the other side. And I'm like, no, you just wait. Because, you know, most of them are coming back, and we have to learn about this journey. We have to be able to bask in the coolness of being looking back into the same eyes again and saying, holy moly, and or having those experiences, like you were saying, feeling our animals on our neck, feeling them around you. I've had people's animals leave footprints in their carpet long after they
Wow.
passed. I'll never forget it. Never forget it.
Yeah.
Right? And they didn't really believe in this kind of stuff, but they believed in the footprints. So they needed more information. Right?
Yes.
So these books that I write, that I give you permission for your dog, I give you permission to grieve for your dog / all animals, is a workbook where you actually get to go in and answer some really intimate questions that are laying below the surface, wreaking havoc on our immune systems and just creating all kinds of guilt, anger, fears, right? And then the Grieving Gracefully is all about those steps from the day you hear, oh, you know, the diagnosis from your veterinarian, or you hear it in your head when you look and you're like, something's not quite right,
Yeah.
right? That moment.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you? That moment when you were like, oh, here we are.
I was in a place of holding space, and I can't stress that enough. Like, it was holding space. Kevin's journey was very different than Bobby Wilson's journey. Bobby Wilson's journey to heaven was a very quick, she had a stroke after coming back from being at the vet hospital for a couple of days. And I went out to the mailbox, and she went running up to the back of the couch, as she did every other day, all the time, to bark at
Mm-hmm.
whoever or whatever was flying by or leaning in.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came in, I looked at her and I was like, I could see her whole shift. Her
Wow.
body shifted, her
Wow.
face shifted. And so I held her in my arms, of course, and looked deeply into her eyes and stayed with her for about, I think it was probably beginning to end, maybe an hour or so. And she didn't fight it. She could tell that she was just in transition. There was no doubt she'd had a stroke coming off of the couch.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. I mean, she was a limp biscuit in every way. She'd been up,
Okay.
and you know, so I
Okay.
knew immediately. And Kevin was very jealous. Like, why are you cuddling up with her this whole time? Like, she's had enough of your arm time now. She wasn't actually looking at her sister and saying, oh, well, isn't that cool? Like, what's going on there? Or I'm curious, or sniff, sniff. Like, it was nothing like that. It was more, it was solemn in moments, but for the most part, she could see something wasn't right, and she was mostly curious about everything. I don't think, she didn't say goodbye to her sister, any of those interesting things
Yeah, that we imagine or think.
we
Yeah.
imagine or think will happen.
I have a really strong sense that she literally just jumped right out of her body when she was jumping in that window and looking. It's like she just like popped right out. It was like the veil was so thin for her.
Yeah.
She popped right out. And then you're holding space with that, the part of her, the physical part of her that's like, oh, okay, whoa, the physical part of her
Yeah.
that is just shifting and changing. Well, the other part of her is already out. She's already out and running around and exploring this bodiless experience. And then Kevin is like, well, she's not even in there, mom. She's out
But
here. Like, what, like, come on, let's get on with the day.
that's right. That's exactly it. Yeah,
Yeah,
very
that's,
much of this. It, like, let's get on with the day.
yeah. And you're like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm holding space right now. This is a big deal. This is a
Big
big journey.
deal.
And yet, here's Bobby Wilson out here just probably sitting on the couch beside you going, well, okay, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm in your arms. I'm right here. Look at this. Like just, it's a really important to use your imagination with
Mhm.
these experiences and let that guide you, because we often, that's brilliant. The way that you navigated that experience was absolutely brilliant and in divine perfection. I mean, a
Mhm.
lot of people in those situations lose their composure. They're traumatized. And I just before this, honestly, like about 40 minutes before this, had a trauma phone call where the animal had passed in the person's arms.
Mm.
So, I've had just sitting before this conversation, that experience, and then walking out into my yard to do some breathing and to letting go of the energy. And there's a monarch butterfly lying on the ground, that my dogs
Oh,
now go after. And I'm like, no, 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 no. That is that animal just came in to say thank you to me. So
I'm, oh,
I'm like telling the dogs to not eat. The butterfly got away, but I was like, oh, the soul just came in to say thank you for
yeah.
me holding space for mom on this, FaceTime chat, just impromptu, right? So this animals also in a place of trauma, I've learned, leave their body. So what we witness or go back to in our minds about trauma, this happened, I saw it, or da da da, or the experience must have been horrible. They've already left their body.
Well, when Kevin died, if you recall, she died in my little VW Volkswagen, my 76
Mm.
Volkswagen. And if you remember, I was going in, I had taken her with me into the front seat of the car. You actually, and I'm hoping that our audience will really resonate and contact you. I pray that that's what happens,
It's
because
really helpful.
it was so helpful for me
Yeah.
when Bobby Wilson, Bobby Wilson was a big deal, but Kevin specifically was my harder loss of all my dogs over all my years, right? Like,
Yeah.
and she was the hardest because she'd been sick for several days. She died a tough death. When we'd gone to the hospital, the doctor said there was nothing that they could do and there was nothing that they could find. So no one knew what was
Common.
wrong with her, right?
Yes.
And so
Mhm.
she was, for 3 or 4 days, she was getting more and more lethargic, sicker and sicker, till
Yes.
she had zero energy. She'd been laying on my lap for several days. And then when I got her into the car, it was because I wanted to make sure we were at the campsite for the next few days, but I didn't want her to drive in my truck without, so we could just drive straight through and not have her sit and wait. So all I remember is, and you really helped me with this, is that she was in the front seat of the car, and there was a woman that was kitty corner from where I was sitting, and I said, my little girl is in the car, my little dog. She's very sick. I just need to run in and pay the credit card, and I'll be right outside. If you see her moving, she's got no strength. I knew she wasn't going to go anywhere. She was
Mhm.
limp biscuit at that point. And I went in, I gave her a pat on the head. I got out of the car. I walked to the counter to pay the bill. And it couldn't have been 2 minutes if it was 2 minutes. It was so fast, because when I had gone into the campsite, I'd said, look, my dog's in the car. I
Mhm.
cannot be here. Like, let's just take it, run it, let's go. Right.
Yeah.
So, but by the time I got back to the car, she'd already passed away.
Oh, yes.
So I was completely a wreck, because I
Mhm.
wasn't holding space for her. I felt like I'd abandoned her in the front of my car. I knew that she was unsick. I was like, why did you drive with the top down? Why did you let all that truck exhaust and all those things?
Oh,
Then I started
guilt, shame, anger, blame.
guilt, shame, anger, blame. I was
Mm.
completely devastated. So the lady said, just go to the campsite now. It's okay. Like, go and sit for a bit. So of course I took her up to the campsite, and I held on to her, and I cried my eyes out, and,
Mhm.
phoned you, and, phoned the vet, because I had to obviously take her for cremation. And I was just like, how is it possible? So to this day, and it's been almost 3 years now, this is the third anniversary
Wow, yeah.
right about now.
Yeah.
And we went camping the other day. The other day, I felt her laying across my neck. I
Oh.
get to the campsite every single time, and it's like, hey, Kevin, in case. And last year and the year before, both for all 3 seasons after she passed away, it's like, get in the truck. Come on, I'm taking you home. Get in the truck.
Oh,
But I
my
don't
head is
feel her
spinning.
in the same way that as I do when I'm at the campsite. So there's a piece of me that's feeling like, oh my God, she's lost in the woods all the time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's
Yes, and
the
that's what people
stories that
think.
you
It's
tell
actually
yourself.
where you meet. It's your agreement to meet here. And we want to make an agreement with spirit. Like my Nana drops me a single leaf. And that happened when somehow around when we were setting her ashes free. And there's this message of this one leaf just coming from a tree and coming like so far away. And I'm watching this leaf just coming to me, just one leaf and coming and dropping at my feet. And I'm like, okay, Nana. And from that point on, that's been my agreement and my hello. That's my telephone call. It's my cell phone call from my Nana. So we want to acknowledge these experiences, and because they're real, and it's that agreement to meet, to show up for each other. So you guys literally, you drive in there and she's like, hello. She's like
Yeah.
park ranger,
Yeah,
you know, and
exactly.
of course around you at other times, but this is sounds to me like, and looks to me like this is where she's got a little cap on and she's just like greeting you at this, like no
That's
pants
okay.
and a red shirt. And just this little comment, this little comical version of if we could just visualize and play with our animals showing up to greet us, because it doesn't have to be painful. We can
Mhm.
have a cry, that gratitude cry, or that, oh
Mhm.
boy, I just really needed a cry. Holy moly. Thank you for that cry. Who knew I needed to cry so bad?
Mhm.
But it's also a hello. And it happens just sitting here. There's going to be people that are hearing this that get I call it a hit, where because you're wide open right now. You're listening to all this information. Your consciousness is open. Your mind is open. You just can't avoid it. And then you just start to cry because you're thinking about your pet on the other side. Well, stop for a minute and say hello and say, show me.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
generally will hang around for a couple of days, sometimes about a week or two. And you're just like, I think they're around, but then they'll get a big hit where it's like, like I can no longer avoid or pretend that this isn't happening. Like it becomes
Yeah.
really thick if you're paying attention and if you want connection, it's available. It's a long distance phone call. I always tell people it's a long distance phone call to Brazil. You're
I
like,
I love the long distance phone call. I mean, I think that there's something to be said for that. And I also think that what was helpful for me is at the time when I called you, you'd said the same thing. You'd said, she's already left her body. She probably saw you get out of the car and she jumped out of the car to go follow you in
mhm.
spirit, even though her body wasn't capable of doing so. And
Yeah.
that actually helped. And I think that it would, I'm hoping that our listeners, can find moments where they can look at the situation. And as you pointed out so eloquently, look at it another way. Say hello. Say
Yes.
hello.
Say hello. Yes.
Yeah.
Quick little piece when I was much, much younger and still just learning about this and practicing, paying attention to it, practicing paying attention. And our family pet dog, Coco, passed. And we had a vet come to the house. And when she passed, I remember like going, oh, there was this energy and everybody just started to cry. And I immediately saw her in this 3D kind of holographic kind of a way, like running around on the ground. And I was like, what's everybody, like literally, I was like, what's everybody sad for? She's right here. Like I remember just thinking that so clearly. She's right here. She's right here. Like, and I just wasn't sad. I was like, oh my gosh, Coco just like got out of her body and there she was.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody's just like, and it is there that piece is also the cord cutting a little bit, right? There's
Yes.
a cord, there's an energetic cord. It rebuilds, but boy, when that cord cuts, a lot of people have that startle and that jump and that pop, right? So just understand that this is an energetic cord between you and them that's breaking, and you can let it be free, like give them permission. Just you have permission to be free. It's okay. And you have permission to come back at free will. You're no longer tied to me from anything other than just love.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we will beg our animals to come back and we pray and we plead when they're passing, and just imagine them hearing that and then having to come back out of some kind of energetic obligation to us. So just
Oh,
cutting all cords,
we
cutting
don't
all
want that for
ties.
people. We don't want that for our animals. We don't want that for anything that passes
Yeah,
over, right?
give them freedom.
And freedom is a beautiful thing. When you hold on to anything too tightly and suffocate that energy, you lose the whole intention of why they were brought to us to begin with, which is that beautiful, pure love that only animals can give to
Oh
us.
my God. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, people will tell me that only animals can give to us. I grieved more over my pet than when my mother or father or, you know, family members passed away. You know, like there's this, like you said, it's this place where everything else comes flooding through. And there's this, it's such a deeply personal relationship.
Such a deeply personal relationship. And your dog will treat you different than other life forms do. Dogs
Yeah.
specifically, cats, and frankly, I'm going to go out on a limb and say fish because while I no longer have, four-legged wonderful babies
Hmm.
out, I have fins and swimmers.
Oh,
And
neat.
so I have a beta that I've been protecting and loving for a couple of years
Yeah.
now. And she took a blow to the head recently, so
Oh
she's
no.
struggling.
Oh, no.
I think she's going to make it, but she's having there were moments in that I've had as many moments with that fish as I have with my girls, right? So
Interesting. Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
so wild. You cannot tell me that fish don't have a soul and a personality
Oh, there's
that's
consciousness there
different.
for sure.
There's
Yeah.
consciousness, right? And
Yeah.
so, I think that it's important that we just recognize that there's a deep sense of love that happens with us in a bond that we have with our pet. I don't know whether part of it is the dependency on us for food or for, life force or for water or for what it is, or whether it's our desire to care for something, whatever that might be.
All the
But I don't
psychology behind it.
exactly like, but I don't know if it matters. I just know what matters to me
Doesn't matter.
are the eyes when they look at you and they just twinkle at your face and you go, oh my God. And my fish do it, my dogs did it, all of my dogs did it.
Yeah.
I had a cat once, my cat did it. It's a
Yeah.
different kind of energy
Because
than a
because
human.
there's you're seeing yourself through their eyes. And you
Yeah,
stop for a moment, like, or 15 or whatever it is. And you look right in at them and the whole world just goes away.
it just goes away.
They're like a moment of peace.
Yeah,
And then they're reflecting back this curiosity or this love or the like different things. Animals they'll reflect back sadness, they'll
mhm,
reflect back aggression, they'll reflect back whatever you bring to the table. So, you know,
absolutely.
you might as well let it be a loving appreciation for them showing up in your life.
And even those that are not loved in the same way, you see on the internet quite often some really tragic
Yeah.
stories about, I can't look at them, it kills me. I,
No,
I
I
just
can't do it.
can't.
No, I
I
pray
just
for
can't
them
do it. I pray
immediately.
for them.
Yeah.
But I'm always curious about the um I don't know if it's a difference between women grieve or men grieve. And I don't want to say that it's to do with necessarily sexuality as far as male, female,
Hmm.
whatever. But most of the men that I've known in my life when they've lost a pet have taken that so much deeper, it appears. Have you seen that? Or is that
Oh
just
yeah. Oh yeah.
it's almost as if
They're broken warriors.
yeah. Because I
Yeah.
think women,
Yeah.
we talk about things a lot, whereas men keep things very isolated. Like they don't
Your
talk as
your sound
much.
just went a little funny.
Oh, is it still there?
No, it sounds a little echoey.
I wonder who's visiting us.
There you go, there you go, there you go. I know, I know. I saw a whole bunch of flicks on the in the beginning when at first I was like the screen was flicking. I'm like, ooh, that's spirit energy. That's well, I just got your dancers in the background there. Bobby Wilson and Kevin. It's like that they're like, and I call them dancers in the background because
Well,
it's
of course, because they did. They used to bounce, 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 bounce.
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Choo, choo,
so
choo.
when we show
Yeah,
up to recognize or talk about anything in spirit, anybody, anything, that energy just shows up. Again, it's like that long distance phone call. It's like we've picked up a cell phone and we're like beep boop, beep boop, beep boop, boop. And they're like, oh yeah, and they answer the phone call. Like it's like
that's
how
right.
we're doing this right now. We can, I mean, it's radio, but you and I can see each other on the screen right now. It's like a Zoom
That's right.
call, right? But it's like a holographic Zoom call when you can't really see them through your eye perception. Although my husband, who believes in nothing or used to believe in nothing, has physically seen with his own eyeballs, his own non-believing eyeballs, um, 3, maybe 4 of our dogs now, like flat out seen them in the house.
Yeah.
Right? Flat out, just like, boom, saw the
There's
dog.
Pepper. Yeah.
His brain almost exploded. Like, it was like too much for him, but it was there. Right. So, when you have these experiences, it's really important to not negate them. Or, I mean, we do, and I do. So how about we practice instead, not take a negate, and just be like, notice, like, I just had this feeling that I just saw my Nana or my dog out of the corner of my eye. Curiosity. Just become curious and then say, okay, you guys, you need to show me. And then watch the cool stuff that happens within that, right? Like, just watch it because it's available. And it's available if you do not believe in it at all. Because I've worked with so many people. I've worked with famous surgeons and actors and actresses and psychiatrists. They're like, I don't even know why I'm here, but here I am. I don't know. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just do this. And by the end of the session, I'll say, well, how do you feel right now? And they're like, oh, well, I feel light and I feel like curious and excited. And I feel like I have this new hope and this new way of looking at things.
Yes.
Right? It's like your favorite television program in the whole world. They said it was the last show. This is the last show. Get your Kleenex, folks. But then right after it, in the writing at the end, they're like, oh, and by the way, we've got like 1,000 more episodes.
Right.
That's the other side is it's 1,000 more episodes. I've never seen it that way before. That was really cool. I think whoever just dropped that into my brain. I like it. I like it when I get new stuff, right?
So
And
speaking of new stuff, I mean, and I'm going to just take a quick second here. People, if you've just tuned into Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM, I am really, really happy that you're here. I'm mostly happy because I love sharing what my friend does. Michele Jarvis Whonnocott has been doing this for quite a long time now. I would like to say her life calling for sure. It's thrilling to be able to just sort of see how things are going as she moves along in this wonderful and empowering work. And so thank you for tuning in. If you have recently tuned in and you missed the first part of this, well, then I invite you to check out our YouTube station. You can find us at Act 3 Media Productions on YouTube. Check us out on iHeartRadio and on Spotify. And don't forget to tune into Rogers Television. In fact, coming up very, very soon, Michele is going to be joining me on the Rogers set, and we're going to have a wonderful conversation similar to what we're talking about now and even more. So welcome back, Michele. And I want to talk a little bit about your new book, in Grieving Gracefully.
Yeah.
What inspired you? I mean, we knew that you were going to do it because it's been a long time in the works.
Yes.
What finally pushed you to the other side?
Anger and frustration. I mean, I wrote the book. I finally published the book, literally like stomping into my husband's office and staring at him in his ear, and you just stare a person right in the ear because they're looking at a screen. And I said into that ear, that book needs to be published right now. So I already had an editor, Silver Dog Publishing, who actually, of all of the things in the world, was the breeder of the dog that I wrote the first book about. She started a publishing company. So I've been waiting because I like to wait for things to show up in my life. I've been waiting.
Things happen on time. That's why, right?
So it was perfect divine timing, right? So literally stomped my little feet and said, we need to get this book up and into the world. It can't just be in the computer and just sitting there. It can't. It's so important. It's so important that people understand that there is ceremony and grace and divine celebration in our animals' passing journey, right? And as soon as you know or have a feeling, that's when you step up to the plate and you say, I've got your back. Yes. And on that note, I want to read you a little piece that I just opened the book to, because you can open the book anywhere and find a good piece, anywhere. And in the book, I actually have them outlined, like a physical outline, and it'll say what I know to be true, or in this case, it says, my guidance for you. Start by telling your animals that it's their life and it's up to them to make the choice on how and when they're to pass. Tell them that you will follow their guidance on how they wish to be supported by you. Tell them that you're there for them as they're there for you, and you'll pay attention to their life signs. Tell them you respect their journey and you'll do all you can to keep it together and not lose your mind with grief when it's their time to pass over. Let them know you understand that the other side is beautiful and that they can journey back and forth to visit you. Let them know that you understand that yours is not the only life path they might share, that they might very well come back into a different life than yours, and that's okay too. Thank them. Tell them you had amazing time with them and they rocked your world and how uniquely cool they are, and that that feeling will remain with you for lifetimes. Make sure you let them know that they're free to live, to be, to do as they choose while they live with or without you, and promise them that you will never have any invasive surgeries done on them to hold them here, and promise them that you won't beg them to stay. If you're not ready for them to pass over, just tell them so. Perhaps if they wish to, they'll stay for a little longer. I've witnessed this multiple times and even hopped on planes to fly across the country to witness it happening. That was cool that there was a little blip in
There
the
was a little blip.
part of the
I heard
computer.
that and I wondered what was
Like,
happening. It
somebody
almost
just,
sounded like my goldfish blip.
their little bloop. They're just breaking the intensity of that for us.
That's right.
You know, and this is the thing. People don't know that you're supposed to have conversations with them, or the conversations, you have permission to have these conversations with them like you would a person. You can
Yeah.
say for them what you want, and I'm telling you that it becomes tangibly real and effective and obvious when you have these conversations. Right? So I think that was a really good piece to kind of.
I think it was a really great piece of advice for all areas of our life, whether or not it is a person that's passing over or a pet. I mean, in all fairness, this last little while, in my life and in so many of my friends' lives, we've witnessed a lot of passing over. It seems almost as if things happen in cycles, you know, where there's two or three or four of this situation, or two or three or four of that of another situation, and so it's almost as if like there's a, a, a connection between bringing people together into the heavens. And so there's a meeting place. So I'm sort of, in my view of all of these transitions, I'm giving permission to grieve for the change that happens when we know, even if we're not personally affected by a loss, the people around us, to hold space for the
Ooh,
people around us,
yeah.
because we are in that connection.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what does that look like for you when you're holding space?
Holding space means just to sit and be with somebody. It doesn't mean that you try to fix a situation. It doesn't even mean sometimes that you talk about a situation. Sometimes it means you just bring over a meal and just sit
You
and
show up
just show up, right?
present.
Holding space for me, you know, from a perspective of language, simply means the ability to let the other person be center stage, and whatever that looks like for them, you're there to support. So the highlights aren't, it's not, if you're sitting with somebody who's in grief and you're telling them how you're grieving, you're not helping that other person. It's not about, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if the other person is in grief, right?
Yeah.
In my view, and I'm like, oh, well, you know, my mom died yesterday, or not yesterday, that would be reasonable that I would be grieving as well.
Yeah.
But if there's a past thing that you're using in the past to
Mhm.
bring into when you're holding space for someone else, sometimes just nodding your head, just being there and letting that other person talk and talk and talk until
Yeah.
they don't want to talk anymore.
Yeah. It's really tricky because in the work that I do where I do grief support, I let people with animals, I let people know right away, like every single session is completely different because I'm
Yes,
following guidance. I mean, I have so much education on how to hold space and navigate space and to communicate and to do this kind of work. Yet, I trust so completely from doing it for so long that exactly what needs to come through will come through,
exactly. Yeah,
right? And if something does come through, because they'll often be like when I'm doing animal communication or grief support, there'll be these blocks where there's just nothing, right? There's just nothing. And then I'll immediately be told to share an example. And what the examples often do is lend people to understand that they are not alone. Because what I've learned in this, especially with the feedback from I Give You Permission to Grieve for Your Dog, that book, people say to me, oh, I now don't feel so alone. Like people feel so alone in their grief and their loss with their pets.
Please be clear that I'm not saying that we don't share our experiences in support so that we like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But for the point of the example, to share the example, to uh how do you say, create that basis for
Yeah.
understanding. Lived experience means something.
Oh,
So if
yeah.
someone is going through it and it has already gone through it, it
Yeah.
does offer that opportunity to say, I do not know exactly what it is that you're going through.
Yeah, that's
I've
important.
experienced something that's similar,
Yeah.
so that you've got permission to talk about it, because I'm sharing, like,
Yeah. It's a safe space.
vulnerable, that's the sacred portion of the space, that's
Yeah.
holding space, right? But if you're dominating the conversation, you're taking away from that other person's grief in the moment.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what I'm trying to say, is like, yes, from the
Yes.
point of view of creating this safe, comfortable place where a person is able to share.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, we did it earlier today. We talked about Bobby and Kevin, right? Like, so
Yeah.
it's, yeah, it's not about not sharing the experience. It's about when you're holding space for someone else, right?
Absolutely. And this is really important, like in the like friend to friend or family member to family member, those kind of things is to, like what you're saying, is to hold space and be there for them and let them say what they need to say and do what they need to do. And in
Mhm.
the work that I do with the grief support work, I let people know right off the bat, I'm not here to re-trigger your trauma.
That's right.
You've already had it, you've already experienced it, you've probably already said it enough, but if you haven't, if there's something that, like if there's something you need me to know,
Hmm.
you go ahead and let me know. But otherwise, we're 100% not here to re-trigger your trauma. Because, in all of this work, re-triggering the trauma, your body experiences it over again. So this is such an important piece. I'm so glad you brought this to awareness, because when we revisit the negative stuff around our pets passing, we feel it. You have cell memory, and yearly you'll have yearly cell memory. So like on the date that my so and so passed away, on the date that we are prepared. We're prepared to go down that rabbit hole again, because we have cell memory. And until we start to do things to interrupt that cell memory, like what's been proven, so I'm just going to Deepak Chopra right now. He has a center in Squamish, and if you Google it, they tell you the things that they work with to help people navigate big trauma. And it's things like immediately having a positive thought and memory about that person or animal, immediately smelling something, that like aromatherapy, smelling something, it triggers all kinds of, peppermint even, like it just takes the brain into a different place. Do 10 jumping jacks, get out, go for a walk, like immediately change the pattern, or sit down and write it all out, get it out of your body. It's so important when those cell memories come up and those core memories of trauma to be like, okay, I am not walking down that road. I've walked down it enough. I will pick myself up, I will shake myself off, and I will not take myself back into the visualization of that trauma, because it's so unfair. And our animals and our people on the other side, they do not want you to do that. They want you to
Exactly.
celebrate their memory, to heal what you need to heal, and get the therapy and the counseling and all of the things you need to do. Get on that journey of healing, absolutely. But when it resurfaces over time, it's our animals and people do not want us to revisit it and rehash it, because when it resurfaces, it means they've walked in the door. They're around you. They're not there to traumatize you. And you will have less experiences with your animals when you revisit trauma than if you feel your animals coming in and feel that sadness and have a good cry and then turn around and say hello. Like it's like if you go to visit your best friend, you show up at her house, you throw the door open, she's like, "Oh, hi, Kathy, it's so good to see you." And then they just cry. And every time you show up, you make that person cry. So you get to the point where you don't want to make that person cry.
That's right.
It's the
Like, you
same thing
really
with
don't.
animals on the other side. They're like, I don't want to make them cry. So they pop in to see how we're doing. So doing everything you need to do to support yourself through loss and experiences, including, like you were saying, sitting with somebody that can offer you a space to just get it all out.
Exactly. I think getting it all out is very healing.
Mandatory.
I think it's mandatory. I think that it's important to understand that everybody does it differently. I think that, there is no right or wrong way to grieve, whether it's for people, whether it's for pets, whether it's for a job, whether it's for, a loss of XYZ. There is
Hmm.
no right way to do it. There
Yeah,
is only your own way to do it. And that takes time and it takes grace.
it
Which
does.
is why grieving gracefully makes sense, because you're giving people the tools that they need so that they can make that personal transition
Mhm.
much better walk.
207 pages of it.
207 pages of
207 pages.
fabulousness. I cannot believe that we are almost out of time. We have like a couple of minutes left, and that's it. Believe it or not, I am gobsmacked as I just looked at the corner of my eye at the clock and went, "What?" I
So
feel
fast.
like
Yeah.
I feel like we just got started, and I
And we got
can't.
real passionate.
And we got passionate, and this is one of the reasons why I love having you on the show. I hope that our listeners really gleaned a little extra something from this. Let's tell
Mm.
people how they can find both of your books. I give you permission to grieve and Grieving Gracefully. How do people get them?
Well, you can go to animalpsychic.ca for all kinds of information, which is me, and or you can go to Kindle. It's on Kindle. We also have just the electronic copies, so you can pull it up on your computer if you don't want a physical book. And Amazon, of course, Amazon. It's in all of the places that I want to say that sentence, all the places that money can buy. Like that, and and on that note, we've kept the price low, the prices of both books low enough. You will find that there's two published versions of a Give You Permission to Grieve. One is $25 and it's black and white. Might still have some spelling mistakes in it because it was our first
The
edition.
first
The
editions.
second one is the one that we paid thousands of dollars for a big famous publishing company to work with us. And that one, it can be anywhere from $50 to $65, which is a lot of money, but it makes an amazing gift.
It is the perfect gift
Oh,
to
it's a
someone.
good gift.
It's
So
a
it
good.
depends where you're at.
Yeah.
So, yeah, animalpsychic.ca for any information about any of these things. We will be happy to support you and give you an answer that is for your highest good and greatest joy.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Michele Jarvis Whonnocott. I love having you. Last thing we get to do before we shut off the show for this episode. How about you give us the walk away wisdom? If you could share with the community something that really you feel is important to share, what might that look like for you?
It's important to understand that you're not alone in your grief and that reaching out for support is absolutely mandatory. And there are hundreds of ways to help heal your grief. And it's so important for you to be curious about every single emotion that comes up. Be curious about it. Like it's the coolest, most interesting experience you've ever had. And that might just be screaming and crying in the car. But what a cool, amazing, passionate experience. You have to roll in the passion of it because it's the most passionate experience you're ever going to have. So be
I'm
curious.
feeling that. I'm feeling it, my friend. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely feeling it. I think
Yeah.
that it's really important. Grief is one of those things that it manifests differently in everyone, but it requires your personal attention. It requires that time that you need
Kindness,
to get
curiosity. It sure does.
kindness and curiosity. You betcha. Thanks
Yeah.
very much. Thanks
Thank
everybody for
you.
tuning in to today's episode. We'll see you next time. on Act 3.
Namaste.
Namaste.